You had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Claire, I'm not standing here asking you to marry me. I'm just asking you not to marry him.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow.
It's the Al Travis Show. We've got with us Representative Kelly Fenton, and I thank her so much for being on the program. Representative, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it is absolutely our pleasure. I didn't get, it's a side question. I actually wrote a hand note here and didn't tell you about it ahead of time. So trick question as well. But I'd love your thoughts on this. And we don't generally do national stuff. But when President Trump threw tariffs out there, the world panicked like, tariffs, the world's coming to an end. And we saw the market come down. It's back now. Still working tariffs out with other countries. But I guess I've even lost, no one's talking about it anymore. But today's paper had this in it that Cambria, the countertop people, were bringing $80 million, Cambria-making plant down to, I think it was Randolph, Minnesota. They're building it now, taking it out of Canada, even though they say sales are down, but tariffs are up. And that's all it is, but tariffs are up. And then they went on about how this is going to be great for the company. And it was a nice story about Cambria. We love Cambria here, by the way. St. Peter's Golf Club. They did a ton of work there. It's gorgeous. Side note. My point to you and what I'm asking you, Representative, might these tariffs and things like this story show that maybe Trump was right? Bringing that manufacturing back here, it forced their hand. We're taking it out of Canada. I can't live with the 40% or whatever it is on them. We bring it here and we're making money again. Doesn't it show it worked? That's not what the story was about with the Star Trib, but that's what you can take from it.
Well, absolutely. I've always said to friends who have, had discussions with me and panicking about the tariffs that I've always thought with the tariff situation that Trump was playing a long game, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be short-term pain, but long-term gain. And when you see the number of companies now that are coming back or bringing either all of it or parts of their production to the United States, creating jobs, that's a great thing. So it's always interesting at the knee-jerk, how people have a knee-jerk reaction and what those reactions are. But I do think there's a long game here, and it's going to benefit U.S. as a whole. And look, Minnesota now is going to benefit. It's always great when you see our companies coming back and creating jobs for the citizens right here in our state or in our country.
And then, 300 people will work in this plant when it's done to take away all the people that are building the plant. I just thought it was a great story, but they only throw in the terrorist part for like a sentence, and I'm like, that's the whole thing here. All right, other news that I really want to chat with you about today. Governor Walz is getting help by the press on why he hasn't decided yet. But the Star Trib, even in last Thursday, whatever day it was, wrote a very big article about the fact that he is very wishy-washy now on whether he is going to run or not. Two things. Senator Jeff Hayden, nice guy. I've met him before. Was talking KSTP, and he says, with the assassination attempt, there's a lot of things he's working on with all the things going on in government. He's just a little behind. Is that a valid excuse? You're the governor of the state of Minnesota. Everyone's waiting for you to decide if you're in or not before we go to the next election, and they're giving him cover that, there's a lot going on.
I think that's not a good excuse at all. If anybody, if an incumbent governor were going to run, they would have already made a decision by now and made a huge announcement. Look, Governor Walz was at Farm Fest, right?
Yeah.
And it's always, you've announced by then, you're really working the crowds at Farm Fest. I'm understanding he was just kind of very just low key there. But here's the thing. There is a lot that is going to bring him down should he run again. I mentioned it before when I was on your show. I wasn't convinced that he was actually getting in because I thought it was interesting that he hadn't announced yet. But now you've got the U.S. attorney digging into all of this massive fraud in Minnesota. And he's talking about this isn't just an instance. This looks to be more something bigger and very systemic. I think that's going to drag the governor down should he run again. I don't think he's going to run. I think he would have announced already. But I think, and we've never had a governor run for a third or fourth term and come out okay with that situation. So
Yeah.
I believe that I believe that he was not going to run, and he probably had somebody waiting in the wings to make that announcement. That all is fallen through. So, maybe they're doing some shifting and trying to figure out and decide who it should be.
But doesn't he, by waiting, mess up with his own party? I say this, the lieutenant governor was rumored to want the governor's job. If he got vice president, she was going to step right in and I'm the governor. But since he didn't win, he starts this, I might still want to be governor. So she applies to be the senator. Well, now she's got to go up against Angie Craig. She doesn't want to go up against Angie Craig and that machine. Can she, and how late can she wait and then say, oh, the governor's out? Never mind. I didn't want the Senate. I really wanted the governor. Can she do that and make a valid play? Or does it just look like you're looking to the next open job? Doesn't matter what it is.
Well, I think you're best off when you make a plan to stick with it, right? But
yeah.
There's clear indications that there's some severe infighting going on within the Democrat Party. The Democrats, I think, as a whole are in trouble. Look at the mayoral race in Minneapolis. That's a perfect example of some of the fighting going on with. You've got this socialist Democrat wing of the party taking a stronghold in Minnesota. And so clearly there's unrest going on within the Democrat Party as a whole. And a lot of that is weighing in on to probably many of these decisions. The governor did play games and he held people out. He said he could out fundraise anybody, if you remember, at that time. So he clearly was holding people out. But why? The question should be why, if you're not going to run. I do think there's infighting going on and they're trying to decide who it should be so he could step aside.
Okay, so that being, you think he has a big play on who that's going to be? Because so far the paper listed 3 or 4 people that might, the ones that got me, because tell me this if I'm wrong, Representative. If it's any of the senators that are current senators, if it's any of the representatives that are current representatives, all of these fraud things that are going on, all of these things we're finding, they're going to be held accountable with their votes. Did you vote to get us the inspector general? They're going to be held accountable on it. So I think that holds some back. But Secretary of State Simons and Attorney General Ellison, they aren't held by either of those. Now, Ellison could be held up in that, why weren't you catching the fraud? Why is the U.S. attorney doing it? But you get my point. They're almost clear from votes being taken about these things.
The name that I keep hearing in the Democrat circles, and you're spot on this, is Secretary Simon. Yeah. And you're right. He's not held accountable to any of this. His duties are completely separate for what he does. Now, in the last years, when they had, full party control, the Democrats had full party control. He did play politics in his role as Secretary of State, right? But still minor compared to what is going on in terms of the fraud. So should Walz decide at the last minute he's going to do it, this is going to really be a ball and chain on him going forward into the election. I think it's going to play a big role. When you talk to people on both sides of the aisle, they are not comfortable with the massive amount of fraud that is happening in Minnesota. And Governor Walz has championed himself for, there's prosecution, they're starting to prosecute, but nothing has been done on the front end of prevention. And that's what we need to focus on. That's what the legislature needs to focus on. How are you going to prevent this from happening going forward?
And we'll talk about all that fraud on the other side of the break, but just let's wrap up the Republican side of things. Basically, and I'm not going to get them all, but there's Scott Jensen, Dr. Jensen, there's Kendall Qualls. There isn't a deep bench of people that Republicans that are in. We're told that as soon as session was over, well, then the extended session, as soon as that over, then we had the shootings. Don't some of these folks need to get in the game if they're ever going to get in the game? Because raising money is tough, and that's what you got to have. And my thought is, I don't see enough people willing to get in that fight. And nothing against the 2 that are in, but this should be a field of 12 battling it out, and they're not.
I mean, I'm just going to say this as a whole. I'm disappointed in my own party, in the Republican Party, for not working over the years to build a bench. I've always talked about it. I'd been at the party at one time, and that was a huge part of what I tried to do, was build a bench for these next candidates. Now, that being said, I would say sometimes if you look at the national level, we have a pretty decent bench on the Republican side where the Democrats don't. But right here in the state, it's really affecting us. Candidates should be getting in, should have already gotten in. The fundraising is hard. I do think, though, donors are holding out right now as well. Donors want to see one thing. They want to see a candidate who says, okay, yeah, I'm going to try for the endorsement, but really I'm going to run in a primary to win this, to try to win this race. So donors are holding out. What I'm hearing from the donor community, I want someone who's going to fight hard, work hard, but also consider running in a primary if they don't get the endorsement through the caucus process.
Oh, and we should mention, you brought that up, the socialist side of the Democratic Party. The Republicans also have, Action for Liberty. There's groups in there that are and they have their right to push their agenda, what they want more than anything else, including primarying people and that sort of thing. There's a lot of that on the Republican side, too, where maybe that some people are just like, I don't want to go through that hassle. It's just not for me.
I mean, look, the shape of politics becoming so polarizing and toxic in today's world is definitely holding formidable candidates out. The kind of candidates you want to run are having to think hard and think twice, think 3, 4, 7 times if they really want to put themselves through this. But we need good candidates to come out and be willing to fight for all of us. I would say majority of Minnesota's center right, center left. We're not seeing those candidates necessarily get in these races. We're seeing the far left, like I said, the socialist Democrat wing of the party. You're seeing the far right. Where is the majority in the middle? We need to find those formidable candidates willing to step up and run.
I love that. On the other side, we'll talk about why some people are quite upset. Some of the fraud we've been talking about, including the latest, which was the Housing Stability Act, which, and I think you hit it, Representative, on the front. Oh, we're going to try to go after these people. We'll go after they've already stolen from us. Why have we not set any benchmarks up to stop people from stealing from the start? We'll talk about that with Representative Kelly Fenton right after this.
Think about it. A famous politician once said, "You're entitled to your opinion, but you are not entitled to your own facts." But in a world full of AI and fake news, where can Minnesotans find the facts? Center of the American Experiment is Minnesota's go-to source for fact-based analysis and common sense solutions for taxes, energy, public safety, and our kids' education. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
Do you have a closet full of old videos, photos, slides, or films? Regain that space and preserve those memories for future generations. Visit archivinglifemedia.com or call 952-829-8018. See how safe and simple it is to digitize all your media. Gain peace of mind knowing that all those important memories will be saved and can be seen and shared again. Do it today. Check out archivinglifemedia.com or give them a call, 952-829-8018.
Are you kidding me?
You know that comment you said to the radio? The thing that we got wrong?
Clearly, Brussels sprouts are the worst vegetable.
Call us and let the world know your thoughts. 855-257-7469. That's 855-ALS Show.
We've got a Representative Kelly Fenton on the program with us. Representative, I think you hit something really to the point in the last segment, and that was about, you might say you're going to go after these people who frauded us, and maybe you will, maybe you won't. The feeding our futures is all a U.S. thing. This was not, the thing we're talking about, the housing stability, was not going to happen unless the U.S. attorney came in. Doesn't seem like we're going after anybody, but let's say he can sell you that. Tell me what you did from the front end. And here's the one, the Housing Stability Act. This thing was set up, in my opinion now, completely to rob us blind. What are we going to do? Well, there's homeless people. We should try to get them off the streets. Great idea. Now we got an idea. Let's run with this bad boy. Let's get guys like Al. Don't know anything, but we can get him to help us out. Let's pay him some money to go talk to homeless people. Does Al have to know anything about the homeless situation? What the different No, don't worry about that. Al's going to go help a homeless guy. How much? $50? Nah, 50 sounds too rounded. 100 sounds too expensive. Let's give him $70 an hour. My lawyer doesn't make $70 an hour. I buy a cheap lawyer, don't get me wrong, but my point is that kind of money to a person with no training to go talk to a homeless feller. How long can he talk about this? How about 150 hours? Squeeze me? 3.5 weeks you're going to give a guy to talk to a homeless guy? What do you got to say? Doesn't matter. What do we have to have out of this? Does he have to get the homeless guy to a shelter or somewhere? Well, no, that'd be too hard. Do we have to know that the person was homeless? Do we have to have a name, an address, phone? Well, an address you wouldn't have. You know, nothing was here that said, let's stop. It's, Al, can you help a homeless guy? As much as we set up the autism thing, Al, can you be an autism helper? No, but I don't have to have any license or anything to do that either. We set it up, sign up, here's your check. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong at all. I mean, look, in theory, this program sounds great, right? Let's put it in place, but they had no parameters whatsoever, no rules, no bylaws, nothing. And these people are preying on our most vulnerable population. This is money all coming straight out through Medicaid fraud as well, right? Yep. So they are preying on our most vulnerable population, veterans, children and families in need, children with special needs. Every single Minnesotan should be furious right now. We are up to over $1 billion in fraud. Some are even thinking just out of Medicaid alone. This is growing and growing and growing. The U.S. attorney is involved now in investigating, but there is a huge systemic problem in Minnesota, and nobody has done anything to prevent it. I know that suggestions were made by the Office of the Legislative Auditor. Mm-hmm. It came in and looked at the agencies, and I used them way back when I was in the legislature. They always make suggestions to put in place so things don't happen or you could have more accountability. None of that has been done. The Democrats voted against having a committee put together to oversee all of this. So the Democrats voted against it. The only, the Republicans, Kristen Robbins has the committee for fraud and abuse, weeding it out. But again, that money is leaving not just the state of Minnesota, but it's left the country. You can't get that money back once it's gone. And the governor's done nothing in the way of prevention. He's patted himself on the back for starting, these people are getting prosecuted. Great. But he has done absolutely nothing for prevention. And that will be the key to keeping our hard-earned tax dollars right here going to the citizens that need it.
Representative, I'm out of time, but what a great way to end it. Thank you very much. I think you said that very, very well. I appreciate you being here and taking the time to be with us.
Absolutely. It's always great to be on your show. Thanks again.
Representative Kelly Fenton on the Al Travis Show.
Brave Ranger.